Welcome to our 44th ECM discourse, Disorganizing, Unlearning Together. My name is Beatrice Jaschke and I'm part of the ECM directors team based at the University of Applied Arts, Vienna. And I'm really happy to introduce you now today to Farid Rakun. Farid, he is trained as an architect. He has very different hats. So he is a visiting lecturer at the architecture department of universitas in Indonesia. And since 2013, he has worked for the Jakarta Biennale, and he is part of the collective Ruangrupa. Ruangrupa, a Jakarta-based collective that has been established in 2000. So currently, the collective is serving as artistic directors for the Documenta 15 that will take place in 2 years. So we are sure that this Documenta will be a Documenta with really multiple voices, I'm sure. And yeah, together with my colleagues who are also here in the screens, Nora Sternfeld, she's also Documenta professor in Kassel, and Luisa, who is curator for contemporary art at the Belvedere, Österreichische Galerie Belvedere in Vienna. So we are all together, we are happy and honored for it that we can try to think together today and to have this conversation. And yeah, due to this time shift, the conversation is recorded beforehand. So yeah, and as I said, the situation is, I think, strange for all of us because we are sitting in our apartments here in Vienna. You sit in Jakarta. Instead, that we are all together at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. We had so many plans for this weekend. And so what we can question ourselves now is how we can assemble under these circumstances with this ban. And yeah, we can try, and I think that was also your suggestion then in the end now for this lecture, that we talk about this togetherness when we are forced in the lockdown. So this is actually also my very first question to you, Farid, as for you working as a collective where it is so important that you're together, and also now with the situation in the two cities, how do you manage? How do you do that?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. I hope the connection infrastructure questions, no? Like the connection will be okay for the whole time we're doing this. Then it's also my first time being pre-recorded via Zoom, like, and then will be also presented to, I don't know, more people. So yes, it's kind of new. But everything is, we need, I think, like for us, as you said, we are a collective, and then we have a lot, but the question of assembling is actually very interesting for us because we do a lot of assemblies ourselves. Even back here in Indonesia, you know, like Good School, the school that we started in 2018, we have this majelis, it's called, what we call it, majelis, from the Arabic word majelis, which means assembly, simply actually. So we do that every month. There's like a monthly assembly, which of course being in lockdown right now, officially not a month yet, but for example, myself, I've been self-locking down for the 5th week. This is my 5th week. So we are learning how to keep on doing stuff, although it's a challenging time. Economically, of course, it's very hard for us, for all of us as well, because a lot of us are like, you know, like everywhere else, precarious, freelancers, etc., etc. But we close Good School, I think, yeah, I think it's like 5 weeks ago, because we want to be responsible, basically. And then it's kind of like funny how something that we were almost always afraid from enemies that are visible, but then this is not an enemy. This is just like something that is invisible, and then we have to rethink about a lot of stuff that we're doing. So we have, luckily, we have always been digital, no? Like since WhatsApp was introduced, like how the collective practice collectivity, of course, is also kind of fueled by WhatsApp. So we don't need to meet every day. Although we like to meet every day, we like to hang out, all those kind of stuff. But a lot of decision making can be made that way. But it's still like we haven't tried our Jakarta-based assembly properly for the whole good school yet. But what we've been trying to do is to have assembly that's supposed to happen in Kassel like 2 weeks ago. We were supposed to meet all in Kassel 2-3 weeks ago. Us, Ruangrupa, with our artistic team and the institution itself, of course, to have an assembly that would be like our third assembly. The first one was in Indonesia, the second one was in Kassel, and then the third one we wanted to make it in Kassel again, but it wasn't possible. So what we've been trying to do is to basically have this, but with 20 people every day, almost every day, every weekdays, almost, which is kind of like a change in pace. Before we have like, let's say 7 days all together, and then we have to make a lot of decisions in the 7 days. Right now we're more relaxed because we don't have that. We don't have that constraint of being together. Needs to be the time of us making decisions. So we've been assembling, let's say, online for 3 weeks. Before this, I was with them. I had to say goodbye early to them because usually it runs like 4 or 5 hours of like, of
No.
have like a Skype sleeping together. If you ever do that. So it's like sometimes, or you can be in the background, you can cook, you can watch something, and then the Skype is on, and then you share that space together. It's almost like that with 20 people, especially 20 or more people, around 20 people every day. It's kind of like we have only 4 screens, no? We have one big screen, and then we have 4 screens. Imagine if you have like 20 people, and then when people start talking and like changing, the camera change automatically, almost forever. But you can also like press mute and then turn off your camera if you have to go to the toilet, whatever, like all those kind of stuff. So it's much more imbued in everyday life. I don't know whether it's healthy or not. That's another question. But to not have that constraint of physically being together, and then that's the only time we can make decisions properly. It's actually kind of, it has nice things to it, basically. So we're and then before, of course, each of us have kind of roles, who's going to be hosting a certain time, because the subject that we're talking about is going to be particular to one person or two. So they're going to be the host. And then who's going to harvest the stuff that are discussed? Who's going to be the timekeeper? Who's going to be the, what do we call it? Guardian of intention, or that makes sure that everyone is feeling okay, the energy is not low, etc., etc. And then to translate those kind of stuff to online presence, it's also a learning curve, learning process, at least for us as well. So harvesting can be more visual, for example. So it's much more active, and so it's not boring basically, because if you can see only talking heads all the time, it can basically kill the energy if it's 4 hours, you know. So yeah, we're learning about it actually. How are you doing with your school?
Yeah, actually, we are also learning, and we only met once with our students yet in a Zoom meeting, which was really nice to see all these faces again. And we will see this weekend now how we continue. So actually, they are all also in different places, and they have different needs and circumstances. So what we tried is to find a way to have some of these weekends also in this digital space, and but the wish to assemble together really to meet again is very, very big. So a lot of things that we do, like museums analysis, you cannot do them. So
Mm-hmm.
we need, or we would have had many travels. You know, we would have gone to the off Biennale to Budapest
Mm-hmm.
now. These things,
Of
we really
biennial
hope that
cancelled
this
as well,
will
you know?
but we hope that this will happen again, and when it happens we take our students with us. So this is our plan, that we do things later that cannot be done now, and then also to see some things and to talk about this togetherness that is not possible now, and about this situation. That's something we can do now, and a lot of readings, and um, they are also writing their master thesis at the moment. So this is something that can be done if there are not many children schoolings at home, or I mean, they also have different situations. So for some, it's a quiet time. For others, it's extremely busy. So we will.
Mm.
I mean, the university asked us to try to finish also the semester normally, in a way to be able to have a diploma in the end. They would get the diploma in June. On the other hand, there's a lot of things that we think we have to do later on. So we are trying to find a mixed way.
Maybe I could
Mm-hmm.
enter here at this
Yeah.
point, because actually what you described, Farid, was a lot about organizing things in a new way, maybe in this new situation, and also what Beatrice described. And I was wondering about the title that you gave our conversation. Also, I really liked your proposal not to do a lecture, but to have a conversation and to, yeah, create something in this very short moment in time. But you gave this conversation this a bit, yeah, this title, Disorganizing, Unlearning Together. So there is strategies, of course, multiple strategies, and maybe also contradictory strategies of organizing or disorganizing, learning or unlearning. And what somehow bonds the things together is this togetherness. And I was, yeah, I would like to maybe ask you to elaborate on the title, and also how it reflects your daily practice, the practice you had before, and how it also changed what we're in right now.
Thank you. Yeah, it's when I just remember one kind of like anecdote maybe that happened when we were uh, trying to curate something in Arnhem, the Netherlands, a couple of years ago. On the opening weekend, like a couple of days, like 2 days, I think, before the opening, someone that we knew from the city saw us, just like, you know, some of us were hanging out having a beer because like it was a very sunny day, and then it was after several days of being rainy and cold. No, and then so we were basking in the sun, we were enjoying ourselves, etc. And then we saw this person, and then she asked us, just like, "Do you have? What are you doing right now? Sunbathing? Didn't you have an exhibition to organize?" And then we were just like, basically, our answer together was just like we were laughing, and then our answer at that moment was just like, yeah, that's the key. We didn't organize anything, you know, like, because we didn't plan, we didn't organize, like, we, in our head, it's not us organizing something to be seen by other people, but we're all that together as a process, you know. Of course, we were preparing something, and then a lot of stuff preparation, but doesn't mean that, you know, that we have to be uh, forcing our voice all the time, basically, and then try very hard for that voice to be heard, and try to organize, to control everything, all those kind of stuff. I think that sensibility is being challenged right now, exactly like what you said. By working together, not only us, we can be disorganized for a long time, and then we kind of like found underlying order between ourselves in our collective work, exactly because we have known each other for years. So we know by instinct almost how things work between us. And right now, when we're trying to work with more than these people, and then also another context, because if you're working in Indonesia, in you know, in Southeast Asia, even maybe, or in Asia, we kind of know how things work. But if it's like to work, then we're forced to see how we actually work, and then why does it work so far, then how to actually make other sensibilities enter our thing. And then technology actually doesn't make it, well, no, it might help, but it's not always easy, because it's very ordered, no? Like, it's like we are seeing each other in a grid right now, for example. And then those kind of stuff force us. So it's like the medium how we communicate to each other force us to organize our head, when to speak, what to do during certain time, all those kind of stuff. But what we're trying to do also in doing Documenta right now is to almost let go of certain things, to be, again, control and power, the relation between organizing, controlling, and their relation to power, no? How to actually invite more voices, so it's not only even Ruangrupa's voices, to influence the a big exhibition like Documenta, or a big event like Documenta to happen, you know, and then to even let go in our way of doing things, even also. So right now, it's kind of funny maybe, because we were thinking that we're trying to do this all to exercise. So when the wind comes, we're prepared, you know. But then the winter comes early. The crisis is here. So this togetherness, all those kind of stuff, actually, like, instead of experimenting with stuff right now, we are asked to go very fast to practice it, to practice togetherness, to how we can do this. No, that's what we're talking about almost every day right now, which is kind of nice, maybe, in a way. So although our way of working is not the only way of working, but it's one of the ways of working that is not business as usual. So when the business as usual is falling apart right now, like as you said, when bodies cannot move and capital cannot grow, then suddenly other stuff could happen. And then I think like a lot of people are trying, more people are actually looking into this togetherness, all those kind of stuff, you know, collectivity, all those kind of stuff as one of the route that we can take together.
What I also heard listening to Luisa's question was an emphasis on this contradiction between organizing and disorganizing, learning and unlearning, which is, of course, also a question about a political contradiction. Like you talk about power and you talk about togetherness as your way of organizing yourself, maybe against or beside, in a para-institutional way, the structures of organization of the field, one can say, completely within and under it at the same time. Now, the question remains in somehow what maybe it makes sense to be a bit explicit also about this political relation. Maybe it makes sense to say that organizing, of course, is not only are you still here, Farid? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Cool.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So my question more or less is, and it brings in the economy as well, while you said that you are mainly more or less together as organizing, how do you see your own organizing as a practice, also as a practice in relation to what has been learned before, unlearning, to how people have organized before disorganizing, let's say it that way?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that could be, we can talk about it a long time, no? One thing from us, I think, from our practice, that we can, one thing is like reflecting on my own experience. Let's try to have the video again because it's nicer for me to talk with my video. But I was schooled in a certain way, let's say, you know, like I went to university and then I got a master's degree, all those kind of stuff as an architect, no? I was told to find my own voice, to be true to that voice, and then be an individual, basically. And then at one moment, of course, I met Ruangrupa. I got introduced to them just because they're in Jakarta. I mean, I was in Jakarta as well, all those kind of stuff. And then I started to talk to these people, to party with these people, first and foremost, not working. But then knowing them over the years, I realized that I actually like unlearned something, which is basically I unlearned a lot of stuff by being with them. And then this is also kind of like the background why we made ourselves into school as the latest iteration. But from myself, I unlearned. For example, I used to, of course, being an architect, all those being taught as in architecture department, all those kind of stuff made me think about working professionally in a certain way, believing in a certain kind of economy and how to get forward, you know, all those kind of stuff. But then, by knowing these people, most of them didn't even finish their degree. A lot of us also kind of couldn't function in a professional setting, let's say, because of the habit and the way of living. all those kind of stuff, then I actually like shifted my values. Like I couldn't push for my own agenda for the group to understand and then goes with it. But it's just like, you know, then it's a lot of forces at one point happening at one point, and then I have to navigate basically. And then it's not only me who are doing that, that I also then realized that everyone is actually doing that. So for a lot of people, it looks as if this organization is very disorganized, you know, like late for meetings, decisions are not made, understanding of time basically is very, very different. Then lateness, giving time to each other to fall into a natural pace of things, not hurrying for a certain goal to happen, all those kind of stuff happen almost organically that way, you know. And then I think politically, if we're talking about political reasons why we're still doing that, is because most of us, if not all, couldn't live other way. We like for example, myself, if I work in an office environment, let's say for a couple of years, no, before I decided to move to Ruangrupa, move back to Jakarta, join Ruangrupa, all those kind of stuff. It didn't work actually for me. And then a lot of us actually also had that experience. At one point or another, we had to choose which route we have to take, and then we take one that's actually much more organic, although it means also like it's much more precarious economically, all those kind of stuff. But we are not losing sleep every day, being stressed about stuff that we actually don't need to be stressed about. Which working in an office environment actually gives us, a lot of us actually. And then, so that's why it's almost the filter of doing collective work in Indonesia, at least, because being a collective is not the most effective and efficient and the best way to do stuff, no? If you want to do it efficiently, effectively, all those kind of stuff, it's better to build an army, maybe, you know, another collectivity. But it shows results in maybe it's a easier, faster way. But yeah, that's the as you said, maybe the funny thing between this organizing, but also organizing still, and then how to actually make that tension an aesthetic argument, maybe. And then I think one thing that we can delve deep together more, if you want to, is actually understanding of time, which is, for us, time is not money. It's actually very, very important to understand that time means differently for a lot of people, and then how to occupy time, not only space, together, and then play with it. Don't be chased with time all the time, basically. It's abstract, but we can delve more into it if you want. Maybe it's good.
Yeah, maybe maybe Nora, I don't know. But if you say occupying time, a format like Biennale, for example, is some kind of occupying time, because it's time. There is a time frame to it.
Yeah.
Of course, there's also infrastructure behind it and a lot of, you know, economic frameworks. But it gives you also, it opens up a slot of time. But maybe you could talk a little bit about your experiences working within within those infrastructures that exist in the cultural field, internationally, globally, and how to implement for at least a period of time your approach to your different approach to practices, also within this time constraints on the one hand, and also the pressure of an output that is obviously there always. So I would be interested in that, I don't know, field of tension.
Yeah. With Jakarta Biennial, maybe it's much more, you know, it's a constraint that, although the next edition will be, yeah, it will be already like delayed for 2 years. It was supposed to happen in 2019, but because of a lot of stuff happening at that moment, politically as well, there's like an election at that moment, all those kind of stuff. So I pushed it into this year actually, but then with different director. So the new director is being installed. It's already installed right now. But then this crisis happened, no? Then the biennial, they decided to push it again for next year. So basically, like it's going to have one edition absent. Like with Jakarta Biennial, it's just like, because it has different history, all those kind of stuff. Then we kind of like use that 2-year cycle to learn stuff that we didn't have the capacity to do before. Like even like producing a certain event that scale, what does it mean to work with that many artists nationally and internationally at that moment, all those kind of stuff. So to have 2 years to do that every, like for 6 years or something, or 8, is actually kind of nice already, because like a lot of organizations here, we are used to have programs yearly because like it's funding logic, no? So at that moment, actually 2 yearly, to think about a biennial every 2 years is actually already like a privilege. It's a good, it's already a long time. So we learn how to use it. But then what we've been talking about lately with this kind of crisis where bodies cannot move, are actually like understanding of time in exhibition, maybe like when it was a pre, during, and post. Maybe we can play with it. A lot of people are playing with it already in a biennial setting, let's say, no, like the next Soundspec, or this upcoming Soundspec, or the Berlin Biennial, or the Oslo Biennial, all those kind of stuff. But what we're thinking is actually to fuse them together. Maybe if there's something like for Documenta, especially if it could happen longer than the 100 days, because we're forced to do it right now. Because we want to work with a lot of other organizations in different parts of the world without taking them away from their context. No, that's our way of thinking. Maybe this is why maybe it's a good the winter comes early, because this is time to actually not thinking how to do it, but directly doing it. Like if we want to work with someone in Ramallah, or we want to work with someone in Choco in Colombia, or in another village in Indonesia, even, you know, we instead of waiting for certain things to happen when we meet corporeally in person, right now it's kind of like it's easier to be very honest. It's really easier right now to talk about other things that we can do when we are not close to be in one space, you know, enclosed to be in one space. And then in that way, maybe something like Documenta, which is of course also under a threat of not it might not be happening in 2022 if we're still thinking about it in an old ways, no? Like there's an opening, everyone is there, millions of people are coming, paying tickets, all those kind of stuff. There's a clear threat right now that it might not be possible if this kind of measures we still need to do. So maybe we can start thinking about this time as not only preparation, but actually Documenta 15 has started. Maybe we can think about framing it different way, that 100 days, because again, it's a history of Documenta, but that 100 days can be something else, not the event, not the singular event of itself. Maybe that's what we're talking about right now. So the the understanding of time, maybe it's also like the role of people are going to be different, not only artist, curator, what they call it, like mediator, and then audience, you know. Maybe all this kind of stuff will be naturally shift. Maybe we don't know yet, but we are talking about it right now.
I think that's really very interesting. It's interesting to see that this time frame, so time is different for you, and now time for all of us is different. And my question would also be, what does it mean with the audience? Because you said maybe the audience will also, what does public mean in this situation? The audience will be here before, or what, how under these circumstances, how can that be the public?
Yeah, but for us, I think because we want to, this is way before, I think, our understanding of public and audience. Maybe it started also because our collective activities started with already a couple of people, and then these people are directly our audience, no? So this is the first audience we are always talking to, basically each other. We're making things that is important for us, so that we want to talk about all those kind of stuff. And then and I think we're not alone in that. After several years as well, certain organizations that last actually played a role, some kind of like, not function maybe, but if we're talking about ecosystems, there's like a role of that entity that plays in that specific ecosystem. And then we want to keep it. That's why we cannot take certain practice even for 6 months, you know. For certain practices to be taken away for 6 months, to be put away in another context, let's say for a Documenta in Kassel, put it in an organization, we kind of like steal them from their own context, put it in Kassel for 6 months, and then fly them back. For some practices, it would mean it would be vital, because there's a certain kind of role that they are playing on everyday basis. Not only economically, but also a lot of times it's idea, it's people, it's connection between people, all those kind of stuff. But so what we're thinking about, we've been thinking about how to not do it. So these people have their own audience as well already, and then how to make that audience is actually also part of our the people that we're talking to or talking with. So maybe by not having, hopefully we still can have it in, even if we're not going to have it in the old ways, we're not going to have it the old ways, not because we are forced to by conditions like this, but conditions, a crisis like this, but imagining a Documenta that actually not only touring, but happens differently in different places. We've talked about it before because a lot of people have spaces, so we have kind of like explosions of stuff happening. But before the 100 days in Kassel, maybe right now what we can talk about is actually the 100 days in Kassel is not a ruptured event from what we are all doing from now. You know, we're going to start. Well, we're actually starting to our partners, the first partners today. Before I was talking. Before I started talking to you. We were talking to the first partner for Documenta that we're going to work together with properly via Zoom, of course, but it's a village in Indonesia. They're based there, and then so still Zoom with people from Kassel, from Ramallah, from Amsterdam, all those kind of stuff. So maybe we can also see space differently because of this. The audience is different. The danger is actually, at least for me, is to move those audience directly to online.
Yeah, and here
because that, yeah, Nora.
Yeah, here's exactly my big question. What I really like to think with you and to listen to you is this point of, how you more or less describe public as this unlearning process that you call shifting from the individual position to the being together. Is in this shifting of being together, thinking together, shifting from who I was as an individual to a collective, to a beautiful moment of togetherness. This we could call public. And I think it makes totally sense and is very convincing. Also looking at the way how you work. And by doing this, it seems to me as a true unlearning process. It's a practice of unlearning. And I also see, and I love the fact that we do this and you do this, and we say, hey, let's try with whatever we have and with whatever works. So let's use the resources and not ask moralistic questions about that, but just see whatever works in order to enter this process of shifting, of unlearning. And of which is a beautiful moment of learning as well. And as you said, within these contradictions, many aesthetics emerge. Now, the problem is that this whatever works yet comes together with means that are all but public, that are private, that use all this material that we are doing in order to create completely different resources than we talk about in a very individualistic economy that is completely based on exploitation and growth in the very classical sense. So now, of course, I think it makes totally sense to use Zoom to talk like we do now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yep. No, it works. I can still hear you.
Okay. So it means it makes totally sense that we use it because we use whatever works in order to think together and to shift. But wouldn't it be important to bring in also questions of alternative technologies and alternative technologies and alternative organization in order to build a base that is not only, decorating with radical words or beautiful moments what is not going to be better but worse?
Yep. Yeah, I understand. That's the sad part of it right now, no? Like, we used to have, like, we were thinking about not using WhatsApp anymore, let's say, like all those kind of stuff. But then those other channels that are more responsible, let's say, which is of course to a certain extent not true either. But it's such a, it only hits such a niche user base that it's not usable any other way. No, so it's like that's why we're using Zoom. Hopefully, we won't be Zoom bombed. You know, like because there are already like discussion about that. Like, you know, the picture suddenly just entering Zoom meeting space. No, all those kind of stuff. But and then our data being sold, all those kind of stuff. What if we stay? If we think about this crisis hit really fast, and then we, as you said, like we use whatever means possible. No, what's great about this technological moment, at least right now, finally, there's a lot of talk about that again after Silicon Valley or Palo Alto or whatever you want to say it has been dictating how things are done. No, so I don't know where is it going to lead, but we have to talk about it, how to take back this technology. No,
Exactly.
Working with technological activists actually makes much more sense right now than before. From, I don't know, like, you know, the digital currency, for example. It's not only Bitcoin, but how can we make it much more possible for other ideas to come in and be used? Zoom is one of the thing as well. Maybe we can think, but at least from us, from Ruangrupa, we don't have that capacity. That's the problem. What we can do is to work with those people who has had that capacity before, but not heard enough before, which we are still looking for, to be honest, because it's not easily identified, or if they are identified, they don't want to be in a certain kind of platform which we have right now, you know. So it's kind of like a give and take. Visibility is not good for everyone, you know. Some visibility is just like toxic, for example. But yeah, those kind of stuff. Hopefully it can be talked about more and more and then be practiced again, because this is the time to practice it. I don't know. Other alternatives that we use, like platforms other than Zoom or Skype or whatever, has been also kind of like disappointing in performance. So that is kind of like a give and take for now, but hopefully we can talk more, and or even like give pressure more to Facebook and Google and Apple, if it's possible at all, you know. Although they are becoming much more important right now, much more important than governments, maybe even.
Yeah, and here you see that
this
all this idea of togetherness, this fantastic fantasy of assembling while we are part of being together and so on, is a main engine of the economy as it is, and not as it could be. And here I see a contradiction that I think is, there's only one way to deal with it, I think, to insist and persist with the togetherness, but by reappropriating the means of production, because they are completely appropriated by private.
Yep. I was also thinking about like to take bodies as well, you know, because it's actually to be the easiest way out of this all right now, to be honest, is for the system to be like techno-autocratic system, no? Like because they show results as well. You know, how China is dealing with it, how Singapore is dealing with it, how Vietnam is dealing with it. The good models, let's say, that everyone agrees. It's using technology to be autocratic, but and then it's really, really easy, and it's really, really tempting to fall into that. Right now, it's that togetherness, all those kind of stuff that we value will be gone. It's really, really easy to. It's right now. It's too easy to say it's not urgent. The urgency is to eradicate all this kind of virus threat first. And then what it means is basically it's going to be that like everyone becomes a number, no?
Yeah, and also our desire for togetherness that we feel now very much when we are in the lockdown is also used in order to surveil us.
Yeah.
So every connection that we do is a potential of entrance of surveillance.
Yep. How to get out of it? How to put pressure to these technological companies, because it's companies basically, no? And working together with the power that be to practice together. One thing is maybe like a shift of value. Again, maybe it's unlearned, like as you said, you know, like we need to unlearn certain values, maybe like growth, and like it's okay for bodies not to work to come to like production means, maybe following your logic, because like we've been doing all that kind of stuff. We've been building our all systems in order for bodies to be much more efficient and effective, and to reach growth, no? And then what if we shift the value to become something that's much more valuable for us in this time of crisis? Money, of course, is important for everyone, but it's only it's only the enough, you know, like we don't need to have so much money to survive. But how to practice that shift of value and to push it, that's the next question. And then that's bigger than I think that's bigger than all of us. That's bigger than art. That's bigger than curating. That's bigger, you know, like that society basically.
Yeah, and as you said, many of
practice
these technology people are super brave and are very much in this logic already. They think about, hey, I mean, why do I need to be a millionaire? I actually know something, I want to share it with someone, and we can actually think technology together. I mean, there are many people in the world in the moment doing this. Okay, many have been bought, but many are just saying, no, you cannot buy us. Yeah?
Yeah, hopefully that will be like a lot of not only ideas, but I would like to see much more like ideas in practice, you know. Then it meets as you said, it's not dealing with only moralistic questions as well, because it's also for a lot of networks that are built on these kind of values, moralistic judgment comes really, really early as well. A lot of times, then it's just like lockdown ideas. So being politically correct all the time as well, like then certain things cannot happen just because of we need to be careful all the time. Then right now we need to act, otherwise we're going to die anyway or something, you know. So that's at least the urgency has shifted as well. How are things over there? All of you are in Vienna right now?
We are all in Vienna at different places, though, not able to meet.
Is Vienna under very strict lockdown or no?
I mean, yes, we still can go out for different reasons, just to go for urgently for work, looking after other people, or if we have to take a walk, we can do that. But actually, we cannot travel, and we should not meet. So it is a lockdown, but not like in Italy or Spain where it's really worse.
How is education under not being able to move bodies? The industry, like, you know, the school, how can you make school that's not MOOC, you know, like that's not online courses, that maybe it's also kind of interesting for us, because like for us, I can start with us. Of course, online is easy to do, but if each of our participants, a lot of them are connected to other, let's say, collectives in different parts of Indonesia, so we can change again the urgency of not, like, you know, not before it was learning how to do collectives in our way, you know, in Ruangrupa, Serum, or Grafis Suruhara way. But right now, a lot of them came back to where they come from, and then for a very let's say, it's a very pragmatic reasons bring us together again, like growing vegetables. Then we can sell each, like, you know, each of us can become a hub for everyone's planting, or face shield, medical suit, because it has been, there has been lack of supply for those things. Then a lot of our spaces change into, instead of, you know, art space, then it changed into manufacturing spaces for those types of products. And then we can exchange not only knowledge, but also like way to do things, but also market, actually, not because we give it for free, but the network makes it into like a different economy, let's say. Sorry, the dogs here are feeding time. But yeah, like as a space, does it change how it work, school in Vienna?
I mean, we actually, with our program, we had only one meeting, as Beatrice said. And what one could feel two things. One thing was that there is obviously something very beautiful in the possibility of being able to meet without traveling. And in some way, it's also easier because you don't need to travel, so it's easier for you to be present. So at this special meeting, we were all together, and this has been a long time since we have been all together in one place, because there's always someone who can't come or whatever. And I had similar experiences last week when I was teaching with Irit Rogoff at Goldsmiths, and there was the whole group of 22 people on 3 different continents, and you feel that there is a certain need of coming together, and a need that is maybe more graspable than it was before, when I would go there, teach there, and some people would be there and others not, and so on. So there is also, as it is in my life, there is something nice also in the possibility of having everyday meetings with people who are spread around in the world, and which I would nowadays not have an everyday life together. And this is possible now, to have this kind of everyday life also in education. But what was clearly said for everyone was that we could not go look at things together, be close, thinking them in a more, you know, 3-dimensional way, in a more body way and 3-dimensional way, which is absolutely important for our way of teaching and learning. And there, I don't know, really don't know how one could work this out.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
maybe,
So, sorry, Farid. I agree. I think
No, no.
it's a question how to share experiences that are beyond the interface of the computer. So on the one hand, it's great to share this interface in a way for a certain specific time frame, but I think we lack many kind of possibilities of experiences together, and most part of what is artistic practice is not happening within the framework of this interface. So as you said, Nora, it's a spatial experiences that we just cannot have or share. So I see a huge lack of things that we could do, of course. And I think we could not go on like this. You know, it would be impossible. And on the other hand, I also think that it gives us time to rethink things that didn't go well before that. So also with regards to how institutions work, I work at a museum that is very much dependent on global tourism, for example, and the financial situation is dramatically eroded, so to say. So we have no budget at all because it's just gone. And so I think it's a common thing for many people working within the cultural field, that economies are turned upside down in a way, and we cannot get back to this old reality of global tourism, for example, for a long time. And I think it's also not something that we should desire for. But then it's also the question how to develop further, or how to develop different alternative modes of institutional work, for example. So this is questions that I'm very much dealing with right now.
Yeah, I think one more reflection, at least from what's happening right now for us, a good thing is again like that, like maybe it's super, it's a luxury to travel, you know, like to travel from Indonesia to Kassel, to have this 1 week all together that we have taken for granted for a long time. Although it's not always easy, it's not as easy it is for us than it is for you, you know, like for visa, all those kind of stuff. So bodily we still find that kind of inequality, but still like maybe, but it's still possible. So maybe we have to think what type of activities that really important for us to travel now. And then, you know, like not only environmentally, because it's clear like Jakarta is so much better right now. It used to be like one of the worst polluted cities in the world, you know, all those kind of stuff. So it's kind of the positive consequences of everything, but also like to put meaning, to put this, like how much meaningful it is for us to be together in one room, all those kind of stuff, and how not to take it for granted. And then assembly, talking about assemblies. So what kind of importance we can put into our next assemblies, let's say, when it's possible again for us to be in one room, then it might change. It might change. It like it's not for decision making mainly, maybe next time. Maybe it's much more about having good times together, to build this kind of like real friendship between us. That is because that's what it's too easy to let someone off our radar if we don't know them that well, no? So even in collective works, like global collective works, whatever, you know, like, so how to build this friendship together much more is actually maybe the next agenda, when we can be together instead of working, you know.
Hello?
Yeah.
I've been away now, sorry. I thought it
No, no.
collapsed, but I thought it was a good point to make a point. And to thank you very much, Farid, for these conversations that we had, and that we are very much looking forward to meet you soon with our students, and then meet you somewhere also in real. Yeah, and thank you also for all the audience that you listen to this, and we will make other ECM discourses also live, and also discourses where we meet again. So we stay on tuned.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been pleasure. It's been a pleasure for me to see
Thank you.
beautiful people as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye bye.
Ciao.
Bye.